The Home, 2025, horror drama. The Home follows a troubled young man named Max whose life is shaped by grief, guilt, and unresolved trauma after the suicide of his foster brother Luke. The story begins with a sense of family warmth. Max and Luke are part of a loving foster household that rejects the label of foster and insists they are a real family bonded thicker than blood. However, this bond is shattered when Luke, struggling silently with problems at college, takes his own life. His death devastates Max, leaving him emotionally unstable, angry, and unable to cope. This loss becomes the central wound that drives Max's behavior throughout the film. In the aftermath, Max spirals into delinquency, committing acts of vandalism and reckless behavior. Rather than being sent to jail, he is given a final chance through community service thanks to his parents' intervention. He is assigned to work as a live-in superintendent at Green Meadows retirement home for 4 months. Initially, Max resents the placement, seeing it as humiliating and pointless, but he has no choice if he wants to avoid prison. This setup introduces the main setting of the film, a seemingly ordinary nursing home that gradually reveals a deeply disturbing reality. Upon arrival, Max is introduced to the strict rules of the facility. Certain areas, especially the 4th floor and the basement, are off limits, immediately establishing an atmosphere of secrecy and unease. The staff, including the authoritative supervisor Lay and the unsettling Dr. D.W. Sabian, enforce these rules rigidly. Despite the rigid environment, Max begins forming connections with the residents. He meets Norma, a kind but emotionally fragile woman who reminds him of someone from his past. Norma becomes a key figure in Max's emotional journey as both share unresolved grief over lost loved ones. At first, the retirement home appears quirky but harmless. Residents engage in activities like exercise classes and theatrical games organized by Lou, a charismatic and lively resident who believes boredom is the true enemy of old age. These moments provide brief warmth and humor, contrasting with Max's internal turmoil. Slowly, Max begins to feel a sense of purpose, realizing that the residents, often neglected and forgotten by society, need companionship and care. However, strange and unsettling events soon begin to occur. Max hears disturbing noises at night and witnesses bizarre behavior among certain residents, particularly those on the forbidden 4th floor. When he accidentally encounters a man there, the man appears terrified and disoriented, as if he is being held against his will. This incident raises Max's suspicions, but the staff quickly intervene and warn him to stay out of restricted areas. The tension escalates as Max becomes increasingly convinced that something sinister is happening within the facility. Norma hints at the truth when she tells Max that something is terribly wrong with the place. Her cryptic warnings combined with her erratic behavior suggest that she knows more than she can safely reveal. She also mentions strange experiences such as changes in the environment that affect sleep, hinting at manipulation within the home. Shortly after confiding in Max, Norma suddenly falls ill and is taken to the infirmary. The next day, she is reported dead, with her death ruled as a suicide. This abrupt and suspicious turn deepens Max's distrust of the staff and the institution. Norma's death marks a turning point in the story. Max is devastated, not only because he had begun to care for her but also because her fate mirrors Luke's, another loss without closure. Determined not to let her death go unanswered, Max starts investigating more aggressively. He discovers that residents who question the system or behave unpredictably are often isolated, medicated, or disappear entirely. The mention of the basement, where belongings of deceased residents are incinerated, adds another layer of dread, suggesting that evidence is routinely destroyed. As Max digs deeper, the horror becomes more explicit. The 4th floor is revealed to house patients subjected to unethical and possibly experimental treatments. The staff, under the guise of medical care, appear to be conducting procedures that alter the residents' mental and physical states. References to needles and dogs suggest invasive and dehumanizing methods, stripping residents of their dignity and autonomy. The home, which initially seemed like a place of care, is exposed as a controlled environment where the elderly are exploited and silenced. Max's internal struggle parallels the external horror. His guilt over Luke's death drives him to seek redemption by protecting the residents. He begins to see his role not as punishment but as a chance to do something meaningful to prevent others from suffering alone, as Luke did. His conversations with his parents reveal a shift in his mindset. He acknowledges that the experience is changing him and that he feels a responsibility to help. The psychological tension intensifies as Max becomes increasingly isolated. The staff view him as a threat, and his attempts to uncover the truth put him in danger. Lou, once a lively and supportive presence, begins to show signs of cognitive decline, hinting that even the more vibrant residents are not safe from whatever is happening. The line between reality and paranoia blurs, leaving both Max and the audience questioning how much of what he sees is real and how much is manipulated. The film builds toward a chilling realization: Green Meadows is not just neglectful, it is actively harmful, a place where vulnerable individuals are controlled, experimented on, and erased. The horror lies not only in the physical acts but in the systemic nature of the abuse, reflecting fears about how society treats its elderly and forgotten populations. Amidst this chaos, Max attempts to maintain a semblance of normalcy. He observes the odd routines of the facility and the behavior of its residents, noting that many appear to be elderly and engaged in strange activities. While trying to assist Lou, Max is confronted by the scale of the facility's secret operations. He discovers a hidden letterhead linking the organization to Almont, a government-affiliated entity under the Department of Health Services. Max learns that the facility is conducting unauthorized experiments on elderly patients, testing experimental drugs and gene therapies. These experiments exploit the vulnerability of the elderly, many of whom have dementia or other health issues, so that the unethical research can continue without scrutiny. Max realizes that the facility's operations are widespread and sinister, extending beyond the walls of the building and involving a large network of similar government-supported sites. As the story progresses, Max uncovers the extent of the residents' complicity and their motivations. Many of the older residents, including Lou, have been harvesting a mysterious substance from younger people to maintain their youth and vitality. This substance, referred to as the nectar of Dia, is located behind the right eye and is described as a source of life and rejuvenation. The residents explain that they have been draining Max each night to preserve their longevity, maintaining themselves as vibrant, passionate, and sexually active well beyond natural limits. The film portrays this process as both grotesque and ritualistic, with elaborate ceremonies honoring Dia, the goddess of youth. The revelation forces Max to confront the morality of their actions and the horrifying reality of his own exploitation. The narrative also explores Max's personal connections. He encounters his long-lost brother Luke and pieces together fragments of his family history. Max's relationship with his foster family and friends is central to the story, revealing moments of genuine care amid the horror. Characters like Norma, who sought to protect Max, and Lou, whose mental state oscillates between vulnerability and violent obsession, add emotional depth to the story. These relationships complicate Max's understanding of the facility and its residents, blurring the line between ally and antagonist. The tension escalates as Max witnesses the residents elaborate theatrical performances designed to manipulate and frighten him. They create elaborate scenarios pretending that government conspiracies, grotesque experiments, and threats of death are real, using these fabricated stories to entertain themselves while draining Max's life force. The line between reality and performance is deliberately blurred, causing Max and the audience to question what is genuine. The residents' motivations are revealed to be a mix of self-preservation, desire for amusement, and adherence to the rituals surrounding Dee's nectar. Max is caught between fear, disbelief, and the desperate need to escape. Throughout the film, there are intermittent reflections on contemporary issues like climate change and societal responsibility, which appear in conversations and media broadcasts. These thematic interludes contrast with the horror narrative, providing commentary on generational conflict, environmental negligence, and the consequences of human actions. Characters debate scientific consensus versus skepticism, hinting at broader philosophical concerns that parallel the immediate ethical dilemmas Max faces within the facility. As Max navigates the escalating danger, he experiences moments of terror and violence. He witnesses residents preparing to drain him, engages in confrontations with those who seek to control him, and discovers the full extent of the ritualistic practices tied to Dia. These sequences are intense, blending horror, psychological thriller, and surreal dark humor. Max's struggle is both physical and psychological, as he must reconcile the horror of the reality around him with the disbelief that such acts could occur under the guise of care and family. Eventually, Max realizes the entire experience has been manipulated by the residents for their amusement. The conspiracy's government connections and threats were exaggerated performances designed to scare and control him. They reveal that the rituals, masks, and ceremonies were theatrical, yet the extraction of Dee's nectar was genuine, highlighting a duality between deception and reality. The resident's confession reframes the narrative. Max has been both a participant and a victim in a complex game, blending life and death stakes with playful cruelty. The film concludes with a chaotic climax as Max attempts to reclaim control. He resists the draining process, leading to a violent confrontation where the resident's obsession with youth and ritual is pitted against Max's survival instincts. In the end, he fights to escape, navigating a surreal, nightmarish environment filled with frantic characters, ceremonial chants, and the looming threat of permanent exploitation. The story closes ambiguously, emphasizing the tension between innocence, exploitation, and the human desire to cheat mortality. Ultimately, the movie combines horror, dark comedy, and psychological suspense, exploring themes of aging, guilt, family, and the obsession with eternal youth. It presents a world where the vulnerable are manipulated for the amusement and survival of the powerful, and where reality is constantly distorted by theatrics and ritual. Max's journey is one of discovery, terror, and resilience as he confronts both the moral corruption of those around him and his own complicity in a system designed to extract vitality and maintain illusion. The narrative challenges viewers to question the ethics of longevity, the cost of entertainment at the expense of others, and the human obsession with preserving youth, all while maintaining a tense, often grotesque, and darkly humorous tone that sustains suspense from beginning to end. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.